And Adam is the worst podcaster.
Look in the VC chat. I got the YouTube video in there.
Yo, they've been beefing so much.
Hey, yo, shout out to Joe Budden, TCS, Trey Budden podcast coming out today or tomorrow. Shout out Trey.
See. Okay,
Yeah, if you look at the VC chat where we in right now, you'll see the video.
Okay, well, when did Joe say? Let me see if I can find it.
Yeah.
This is definitely the recipients of such awards. Here it is.
No Jumper as a whole.
Podcast has gotten
Whack 100 is really.
He's saving
man. Yeah, if that show ain't there.
Yeah.
If that show ain't there,
then it's rough. It's
that
tough.
whole you could throw that whole shit in the.
That's a fact.
That's what I was saying.
All of it. As a network.
Yeah.
As a network.
As a company, as a crew.
So it's like
they have an identity crisis.
They do.
They are, yeah.
They do.
Yeah.
Well, they lost their pieces.
They lost their identity.
They lost it.
So
They
now
got to
it's-
refund that now.
Yeah.
Yeah, now he's trying
It's
to
a lot
do
of
the
shuffling
whole,
going
I'm a
on.
cuck, fuck my wife. And I mean, cool, but
best and worst podcast networks.
mine and No Jumper.
And then the worst, you got No Jumper still.
Oh, easily.
But it's so bad, it is good. So it's like they losing, but they losing.
Not right
They
now,
losing,
though.
yeah.
Not
What
right
about-
Did we do worst set yet, too? I got No Jumper for everything. Let me
Yeah, we did pass
you
that.
have said no jumper a lot.
Yeah.
So if you got no jumper for everything, what like
Not everything.
I don't
but
know. I know you don't want to give him no free advice, but what would you do in that situation?
Never giving Adam free advice. Fail.
Miserably, right?
Yeah, that's
Go
what you
out
could
flaming.
do. Let the fucking ship sink. Go do whatever you're doing with your wife. Have a blast. Get into your BMX white boy bag
Whatever
over
you
there.
do, whatever
But
you do over there, yeah.
my advice to you is fail gracefully.
Forward,
The
honestly.
set even looked different. It's all bad now.
Yeah.
Now, unfortunately for Adam 22, this is kind of what everybody has been saying about No Jumper. Ever since the old crew left, AD, T-Rail, Adam really hasn't established any identity for the podcast or for any of the shows up there. Him refusing to pound or diminish JBP credibility. Here's what Adam said.
Man, I got the podcast game on my back right now. Joe Budden had Tasha K come all the way out to Jersey and do a multiple-hour interview. She was happy about it when I seen her, and he's not dropping it. He's scared to death of Cardi B. He's scared to death of Offset. He don't want to have another run-in in the mall with the QC goons like he did. Remember, Everyday Struggle was actually really entertaining before QC told him that he wasn't allowed to talk about their artists anymore. And that's when you saw him really simmer down, brought the temperature down a whole lot. But, I mean, if you're Tasha K and you went all the way to Jersey to do an interview that when I talked to her, she was real happy about the interview, and he's not dropping it because he's scared of Cardi B, like, what kind of shit is that? That's not why I got in the podcast game. I didn't get in the podcast game to be running around acting like a hoe. Hoe Budden, you acting like a hoe, and nobody respects it. Your fans are losing interest.
All right. So let me give you the story of how I understand it between these individuals. I think they had a decent but respectful relationship. More admiration on Adam's part because I will be honest, I do think Adam has, Adam, even though he was a BMX guy first, obviously he liked hip hop, but then he got into hip hop media later on. He is someone that I believe, and I always see certain people be like, yo, is Adam scared of act? I don't think Adam necessarily is. Like, we've had our words and whatever. I mean, he know how I get down, right? But I don't think he's scared of me. I think Adam is a little bit respectful, honestly, in terms of hip-hop journalists and the lanes people have played. I think Adam would probably admit that when he came in and saw what I was doing, that gave him some inspiration and probably also made him curtail a few things. And also that synergy among even the audience that I had helped him grow and obviously help the scene. Like not just only him, just everybody, right? So I think Adam looks at me and be like, yo, listen, for this independent media shit that he's obviously a beneficiary of now, it's like, yo, this nigga Ack has done his thing. That's respect right there. I think that's what it is, if you ask me at this point, right? I think he's had a lot of respect for Joe Budden, tremendous respect, in terms that Joe Budden's a great orator. Joe Budden's one of the best in the game at this media stuff. But also, Joe, in terms of his podcast is really dope. His podcast has been there before pretty much every other podcast and has been very highly engaging and entertaining. Okay? Now, this is where it goes left. The problem with Adam at times is that with someone with that mentality, they go into spaces hoping to get embraced. And they go in there not realizing that, again, I'm black, obviously, but when I started my media journey, and even till now, they're still trying to slam me for the war in Chirac. A lot of people were very upset about how I covered issues between people or beefs or, hey, why you gotta, you're an they had a lot of things to say about me. For many years, I took all the arrows because I was the poster child for everybody in this media space. I took all the arrows on Everyday Struggle. I took all the arrows. Then somehow I got in the favor of a few people. And I got in the, people like, all right, cool, let's accept him now. It's the reason why I think I even get to be number 2 on the list. They'd be like, all right, we got Ak. Ak, shit, motherfucker, you're the only one. Like, that's what they almost look at me like, you're the only one getting through this door. And it's like, all right, we're going to accept you, but not really, but we won't call you and dismiss you as the internet guy. Because at first they were dismissing me as the internet guy. Cool. Joe goes to... Adam goes to Joe's podcast, and I think Joe did Adam's podcast. And I remember when Joe did Adam's podcast, it was very interesting because Joe had the demeanor of, it was kind of like, yo, I'm in enemy territory. It wasn't like I'm in a safe place. And I remember even saying that to him when he did my podcast. I said, Joe, you better not give me that type of interview. Nigga, I've been squabbling and warring with you with my words at Everyday Struggle for so long. You better not come up here and give me that bullshit. And he gave me an amazing interview. Amazing. Joe's always been great with content with me, and every time I give content to him, it's always been great as well. But then Adam goes to Joe's podcast when it was back in Park's basement in New York. And Joe had some new co-host. And it didn't go too well. Because they were trying to make a point. And by the way, I've been in that seat many times where people are trying to make a point about how I cover stuff or blah, 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 blah. And Adam had his counterpoints. Now, where I think that there's some resentment there is that I think they left that room and they said, we violated Adam. Later on, and this is where, it's like sometimes I always say every Reddit is a curse. Like if I tell every creator, you don't want to get ruined, don't look at a Reddit, okay? There's nothing wrong with it, like what a Reddit is, but usually the people who are on a Reddit, they're there to see destruction, not there to really have, and they're there to point out what's wrong on a Picasso. They're not there to say, oh my God, this is hella beautiful. Yeah, maybe one little speck, but it's beautiful. So they're not admirers as much, right? And admirers doesn't mean dick sucking. But that's just the nature of what I've seen most Reddit, okay? It doesn't matter who. Flagrant Reddit, Brilliant Idiots Reddit, Joe Budden's Reddit, No Jumper Reddit, everybody's Reddit. Okay. So the Reddit after there took the conversation that these two had, and they actually said, to be honest, Adam didn't really get violated that much. Actually, he had a great point. He made a phenomenal point. And the point they were calling him out about was him posting certain things, especially maybe him taking advantage or monetizing content dealing with the death of people. And I think there was one video in particular that was very, inflammatory to the podcast. And they were like, yo, how dare you have a video to say we interviewed the guy who killed so-and-so, right? And I think Adam had his points. But anyway, the Reddit later on said that Adam held his own. Ever since then, it's been kind of iffy. But I do think that Joe might have had one in the chamber for him. Saying the next time I get this nigga, I'm going to make sure I see what the Reddit said. I'm going to settle that score. From what I heard, and this is the part where I'll give some personal inference, Adam, this was when AMP was a thing. So AMP is a thing. Joe's doing a show on AMP. And Adam 22 was coming on Joe's show. By the way, this is around the time where people were accusing Adam of certain things or certain comments that he made in the past. And it was supposed to not say necessarily be a softball interview, but it was supposed to be a friendly vibe. Why? Adam had or was in conversation with getting a deal or being a part of AMP as well. So it was almost like you get a bigger creator or another creator to welcome your next creator. So it's like, what's up with young man, blah, 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 blah. And then maybe the week after he was supposed to announce, I'm on AMP too. It turned into Joe grilling the shit out of him. And I think that threw Adam all the way off because despite their back and forth at the podcast, he thought everything was on mutual ground. He grilled the shit out of Adam. I think Adam was like, wow, the way he handled me there, which, by the way, Black Twitter ate up. The way he handled me there isn't someone that I could look up to as much because I lost a little bit of respect, and also not someone who I could really hit on the side and consider we have a cordial, I don't necessarily say friendship, but acquaintance. Ever since then, Adam goes into his arc of Big 22, and he's going against his co-host, and then Joe and his co-host may have said something, and he just started giving it to Joe. Like there's no more respect even heard or seen. That's where you get this video from. And I think this is where Joe is giving him back the same energy. But I don't think it's like necessarily, it's not that personal where it's like, there's going to be a war of words really back and forth. I think Joe treats Adam like Vlad, meaning, I'm not going to sit here and argue about you every day. But anytime your name comes up in conversation, I am going to slam dunk you. And I think that's why you get that. Now, I think I give a really good synopsis of what I believe is happening. Right? No? But, yeah, who knows? But let me get these comments again.
No Jumper were recipients of such awards. Here it is.
Outside
No Jumper as a whole. It's
podcast
just in
has
the
gotten
toilet.
what's
Whack
happened over
100 is really,
He's saving
my
it?
man. Yeah, if that show ain't there.
Yeah.
If that show ain't there,
Then it's rough. It's
yeah,
tough.
bad.
you could throw that whole shit in the
That's a fact.
dumpster.
Now, I'm going to be fair. And you see, I just try not to be a hypocrite in a situation like this too. What Adam has with No Jumper is a little bit unique, right? I'm gonna compare it to two things, and I'll even use myself as an example. Joe Budden has a very successful podcast, right? His podcast is an A+, probably one of the best podcasts out, period. But Joe Budden attempted to do a network. Now, what a network is, having other shows and other people and trying to create talent and create stars out of people that you're personally finding. Okay? You get what I mean? And you're doing this by just working with your little resources possible. You're not the Breakfast Club, who basically they invited everybody from everywhere to come co-host or guest host for like a week, gave them accommodations, everything, just to find the perfect fit. Right? Joe obviously tried. And, obviously he hit a few snafus or whatever the case is. But here's the thing with Joe. He could always bounce back to his great podcast, right? So he's not really doing the network thing now, or the only thing on their network is the podcast, but who cares? I'll even use me, right? The Academy I'm starting off with, and you've seen, like, it's a slow grind. It's a slow grind. It's a slow build. But if anybody ever be like, yo, the Academy's whack, it'd be like, well, they can't say that when what I have apart from the Academy, and I don't want to say apart from it because everything is underneath the Academy, but you can't play with Akademiks. So because you can't play with Akademiks, you got to just ignore while I'm building the Academy. The thing with No Jumper is that Adam has never really been just Adam without No Jumper. Adam has been a byproduct of No Jumper. So they look at No Jumper and by inference, by Adam, as whatever y'all got going on now is how lit y'all are, which is kind of a little bit unfair, but I get it. And the reason why is this. What Adam has taught, I say taught me, I don't want to say taught everybody else, but taught me. And what I mean taught me by me watching him. Bro, it's very hard dealing with managing talent, keeping them there, building shows, and being consistent. Do you get what I mean? And at times you're going to be on fire where you have some of the best content. And at times you might have a slow period. And I think that's why it's a little bit unfair to be like, yeah, that nigga's trash. Shit, he might be having a little down period right now. Let him rock out. You get what I mean? So I don't really judge it as such, and probably my opinion or my mindset towards that has changed because you're trying to build. You know what I mean? Somebody says, "Ak ain't no saving Adam. Adam's done for." You said what? Okay, all right. Well, the things y'all are talking about him with like his wife getting smashed. All right, that's some other shit. And by the way, here's the thing too though. If Adam cares about these type of conversations, he has to realize that the fact that he has done porn and the fact that he has chosen to allow his wife to get penetrated by other men on camera, albeit for a shit ton of money, is always going to put a slight stain on his credibility or how people view him in the podcast. It's like a rapper. The moment you know that nigga like got robbed or his chain got took, yeah, the raps is cool, but it don't hit the same as much, right? And I think that's where someone like a Joe is kind of using against him as well. It's like, well, these other non-rap things, we're going to use it against you. And I think Adam has to he has to live and die with that. You know what I mean? All right, I'm not caping for him. I'm just being honest.
Yeah, he did chose the wifer, bro. You can't really say you can't use that shit because he quick to talk about somebody else's life. So
yeah, and also I think the last thing that's the biggest is he's white. Like you see, Adam. It's I used to think of me, Adam, and Vlad like. Well, I still think of it now in terms of the new media, like. New media power 3, me, Adam, and Vlad. That's how I like to think of it, right? And obviously, I expanded to 4 because I got my man Sean Cotton. We can't leave my mans out. But I will say that what I do know about Adam and Vlad is that they're white. And what happens with a white person in hip-hop, they will never get to a certain spot. It's like the conversation about Eminem that's happening. Bro, they'll never get, like, they could fight it, then they won't get to that spot. And they have to have enough grace to realize certain conversation, as long as the context is music and hip hop, that is still a vehicle and still a culture belonging to black people, you will probably not fare well in certain type of conversations, and you got to own up to it. It's fine. I think Vlad has kind of owned up to it and be like, yo, it's cool. Like, I've been slighted. I'm like, not necessarily slighted, but I get why people might say certain shit. You know what I mean? Wait, is this recently though? This says Joe Budden trashes Charlemagne. Is this again?
Joe Budden Joe Budden love Joe Budden where the talent and the way he does Charlemagne Menace Lab or do, whereas the Joe Budden are just this is Danny from the start.
Wait, what the fuck? How do you got the
I know chick.
Don't tell me these two into it again, bro. This is like the longest beef with no ending, bro.
apparently it's new, man.
Bro, this is the longest beef. It got no ending. It's like, yo, come on. Hey, by the way, you know I was arguing with somebody recently? I think some of y'all are like movie watchers, so y'all probably gonna agree with me and I don't have to like explain it. Are we all in agreement that Thanos was the good guy in Avengers?